In this video, we're going to be talking drum effects, mixing techniques, bussing techniques, all that good stuff to get them to sound even better. But right now, they sound super good, super clean, and all we've done is almost nothing. We chose great sounding samples is what we did. We chose samples that went with the melody, that sound great, that are going to result in less mixing later on. Really just leveling. And the majority of my leveling I did within the channel rack, as you can see here. My faders aren't really touched, but I will show you some techniques that you can use within the mixer to get maybe some more punchy sounding kicks, punchy sounding 808s, thicker sounding drums. So right now everything is sent to the mixer. Let's give it a quick listen on this. Like this B section here sounds the most full. It has all the drum sounds in it. All right, so let's just mute the melody. All right, so we have, first off, let's like start with the kick and the 808. They sound good together. The 808 has a little bit of a kick inside of it, so I don't want those to clash too much. So the way I'm going to do that, wait, first off, before I get ahead of myself, because I've done this before in the past, let's create a drum bus. Because what happens is, if you're going to be doing any side chaining or any routing like that, once you create a drum bus later on, and then you try to route everything to that drum bus, you're going to lose your side chaining. You're not going to lose it completely. You're just going to lose the way they're chained, and you have to like reroute the tracks and stuff. So it's easier if right off the bat you create your drum bus right at the beginning. This can go on any empty track, by the way. Doesn't matter. Any empty track. I like to color it, dock it to the left, just to have it there, right? Take all of your drums. So I'm going to take all these sounds, all these drums, minus the 808. I don't like my 808 to go into the drum bus, because if we throw any compression, EQ, or anything like that, I don't want it to go in there. So from the kick all the way back to these percussion loops that we have, I want to hold control, click and drag. Everything's highlighted. Go over to that drum bus, right click, route to this track only. Give it a listen, make sure we muted it. We can only hear the 808 now, so we know that we're good. Dope, perfect. So now I want to sidechain the kick to the 808. And what that's going to do is make sure that we don't get any clashing frequencies between the kick and the 808, because they do have a lot of similar frequencies. So I'm going to highlight the kick here, and then I'm going to go underneath the 808 channel, right down where this arrow is, right click and hit sidechain to this track. Then we can go into that 808 channel, go into the inserts, and just make sure that this is the last thing in your chain. That's why I'm dropping it down here. We're going to put the fruity limiter. So open up the fruity limiter, bring it over here, turn it on the compressor setting, bring the threshold down and the ratio up a bit, and sidechain to track 1. So real quick, I wanted to tell you about the split section in DistroKid. In today's climate, everyone is collaborating. This is awesome. So DistroKid has a tool that allows you to easily pay your collaborators without having to hire an accountant. With splits by DistroKid, you can add unlimited collaborators to any track. You can change the splits at any time. You can even add or remove collaborators at any time. You can go back in time and see the previous splits. For privacy, collaborators can only see what percentage they get. Your collaborators will need to make a DistroKid account, but they'll get 50% off, so it's only $10. Your release won't be delayed if your collaborator is slow to sign up. Instead, they'll just hold the money for them until they join. If the artist never joins, you can easily cancel their invite and reallocate their money elsewhere, or you can grab it yourself. As always, DistroKid never takes a cut. You and your collaborators get 100% of the earnings in total. Now let's get back to the video. Biggest thing that we want to pay attention to is how far down this peak is going. Like how far down is it turning down that 808 before it comes back up. You don't want a completely like pulsating 808, especially with trap stuff. We just want to hear the punch of the kick, and we want to hear the full body of the 808 at the same time. So the release is going to be like our best friend here. Pull back this release. This is going to show and tell us and control how quick it comes back. So you could see the gap. Look at the V-shaped gap right here, right? Look how small it is here. We tightened up and we sped up that release. So the 808 comes back faster, which is what we want. We want to just get rid of just that transient at the beginning, but have it snap right back so we can hear the full 808. We don't want that pulsating effect. You could solo those out to give it a better listen. They're supposed to just sound like one instrument, which it does right here. It sounds like one instrument. It doesn't sound like we sidechained it. It doesn't sound like anything's pulsating. This is how we want it. That pulsating effect is really dope if you're making EDM music and you're using it for an effect and you're using it like very drastically for effect. It sounds dope. But for trap stuff, kicks and 808 sidechains, we're doing it as a mixing technique. And what's really cool is how they play off of each other when the kick drum hits and the 808 doesn't, and vice versa. We get a nice little balance there. Listen to everything together. Brings me to my next point. Let's stay on the kick and 808 topic for right now. If we want some more punch out of this 808, a really cool, simple technique is the Fruity Soft Clipper. So what this is going to do is it's not going to ruin any of the transients inside of that 808, which is what we like the most about it, right? Right at the beginning, we like that punch that happens. So pull this threshold down. Bring the post up. Let's bring the kick back in to see what it sounds like together. So we get the soft clipper going, adds a little bit more punch and thickness to that 808. Yeah, bro. Fire. Sounded really good. Really, really good. All right, so what I like to do with the drum bus, let's go back to this drum bus of why I made it. Number one, if you need to affect the drums as a whole, you can just throw an EQ or a plugin or a, any compressor or any effects plugin. Like you want some sort of filter, but you only want it on the drums. That's why you like to have a drum bus right there. They're going to be separated by themselves, not affected by anything else. That's one of the main reasons why I like to use the drum bus. So I'm going to do just that. And I'm going to throw a slight soft compression on those drums just to glue them together, just a tiny bit. This isn't a necessity. Again, this is a technique that I like to use a lot for like rock style drums, something that has like a full drum kit. It works with hip hop, trap, and rap stuff too. Don't get me wrong, it works and it sounds really good. It's just something that you don't have to do. It's just an extra step that you might not need, but it's just something cool to have in your tool belt. So we're just going to glue these drums together with a slight bit of compression. We don't want to lose any transients or anything like that, but keep that in mind. So to not lose any transients, we're going to be going and softening up the attack. So that way it comes through and the compression starts to work, but it doesn't kill any of those transients until after they hit. And then bring the threshold down and the ratio up to start compressing. It's probably too much. You can see the peaks, like how much it's doing. Obviously the kick drum is the loudest thing in this mix, in this bus right now. So it's going to choose that to start on. And like I said, let's bring this attack back even more because we are chopping that transient a bit. And like I said, this is just gluing the drums together just a little bit, very slightly, to make them sound a little bit more cohesive, more like a full-on drum kit. And that's pretty much where I leave it. I don't really try to throw anything crazy on there. I don't really EQ the drum bus. It's just there. I keep it there to just in case I want to throw any effects, any sort of filters on just the drums by themselves, and to throw a little bit of compression. So let's just keep it moving here. We keep going and mixing these drums. Let's move on to the next sounds with some hi-hats. So this hi-hat's over here. Yeah, let's bring it over next to this other hi-hat. All right, so a lot of times with the top end, I like to use panning. We need to create some space. The vocals are going to sit right up the middle, and the drums will sound less stiff and less boring if you widen them up a little bit. You don't want to widen up the low frequency sounds. That's why we keep the kicks, 808s, snares, claps, usually straight up the middle. That's going to fill up that space. Anything that's more high end is going to sound better if it's panned. And like I said, no rules. There's really no rules to that, because I've heard people pan low frequency instruments. But just as a rule of thumb, it's usually what sounds best is high frequency instruments panned. So I'm going to take these hi-hats, I'm going to pan this one slightly to the left, this one slightly to the right. And what happens a lot of times when you pan things is it makes them slightly louder too. So by panning these, we might have to turn them down, but we have to listen to it in the full mix first. Yeah, it needs to go down a little bit. Actually, I want this one to go up. I want to throw a little bit of reverb on these hats too. You can use the bus, or you can throw a reverb directly on there just to get it really fine-tuned. Shape it however you like it. Stereo separate it maybe. Just adjusting the mix on it. Maybe you can copy and paste that over to the other one. Come down here, click and hold on save preset as, drag it onto the other one. Stereo separate them. Again, let's create some of that space, some stereo width. That brings me to the next sound, the snare. Let's go straight mono with that one. I'll show you why. Because we got this clap. This clap, I want to give some stereo width to. And maybe a little bit of reverb on the reverb send. And thin it out. So I'm going to go to that clap and just thin it out with some EQ. It's already super thin, but just want to make it even more thin. Take out some lows, like a lot of them, and mids, like everything. Just get the highs. Beautiful. And the snare, I kind of want to add, like, I love that snare. I just feel like it lacks just a little bit of bottom end. Like over here. In the 500 range. So I'm just going to boost it. But I'm going to cut the super low frequencies. So that way it doesn't clash with kicks or 808s or anything like that. That's pretty much perfect, but I got to hear it in the full mix. When you're mixing drums or anything for that matter, try not to listen to them soloed for too long. You're going to get lost. You're going to start doing things that it's just not going to sound good in the full mix. It's called mixing for a reason. You got to mix it fully with the full beat. That's why it's called mix. You got to mix things. You got to hear them in the mix. Yeah, I like it. We just need to go down in volume on both of those a little bit. to the rim shot next. Rim shots I like to pan sometimes. I'll pan this slightly to the right, and maybe let's like just thin it out a little bit. When you're listening while you're mixing these drums, like, try not to hone in on just that one instrument. Even though you are working on that one instrument, try to just listen to like what the listener would listen to, but keep in the back of your mind that thing that you just tweaked. So in this case, like, I'm listening to the guitars, but I wanna listen for that rim shot at the same time to see if it's too loud, too low, too thin, too much panning, whatever. Sounds good though. Oh, this sound that we're not using. In 13? Nothing. Oh, this one. This open hi-hat we're not using. I don't even know if we need an open hi-hat anymore. Now that I'm hearing it, like, I don't even know if we need it. Right? You can try it, but it doesn't sound like it's missing anything. We don't even need it. Just get rid of it. Goodbye. Sometimes you don't need things. So 12 and 13 we're not even using. So reset to default so we don't get messed up. Move this. This is our percussion loop that we created. We already did a decent amount of mixing to it prior, so I don't know if we need any more. Alright, so that's pretty much going to do it for the mixing portion of the drum section. Catch me in the next one. You get me.